Hi, everyone. It's CricketSong with Inner Wisdom, and you're here watching another episode of Weird Witches Witchcraft. Obsidian Fire is not with me this evening, and her last show was last week. So if you missed it, you'll hopefully see us back in October. But tonight I'm here with Aaron Lozano from Turtle Heart Tarot. And we're going to be talking tarot tonight. So say hello to everyone, Aaron.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
The links for his information for his website, I think, and his YouTube channel, you can find in the information section of this video. So during our hiatus, make sure you go over and still send love and attention to Aaron.
Yes, please. Thank you.
So tonight we're talking about novice to expert, or I can't remember.
Seasoned. Novice to seasoned.
Oh, seasoned. That's a good word. And what to do in between or until then or something like that.
Yeah, in the meantime.
I'm sorry. Anybody that is watching in chat right now, I don't see anybody yet, but if you're watching this, actually, I won't address them because they could be watching and they're not even chatting yet. If you're watching this in chat and you are in chat, please feel free to ask questions in regards to our topic, and we will make sure we address them. Okay.
Yes. So I decided to talk about this because I find a lot of times you take that beginning class, you go for those 6 weeks, or you go for, I've even seen a year, and I don't know how they did a year. But like a year learning the tarot. And so, you go for your 6 weeks, and then what do you do afterwards? Because you can either take an intermediate if they offer it, which I've never seen them really do it one after the other. And so you have this new tarot reader that's stuck. Like I felt stuck when I was learning the tarot, and I felt stuck when I first took my class. I didn't know where to go after that. I didn't know how to develop my gifts. I didn't know who to ask those questions that I needed to ask, like as far as ethics and as far as how can I be a better reader? How can I learn the cards better? How, what can I do with all this? Or how can I integrate other forms of divination with my tarot and have it be okay? Because when you're messing around, you don't want to look confused during your readings. You don't want to, really be a novice and pull out the little white book and look at your little book and say, well, it says here that there's some kind of change happening. Do you have any change happening right now? You don't want to be that one that's asking the questions. And I know I've been there. I've been there with problem cards as well. When cards are popping up and I'm like, I don't know what they're saying. And I would stare at them as I was learning the tarot. And so one of the things that I wanted to talk about was integrating Oracle with your tarot, because you have more of a wording on the Oracle side, and you can use it as a jumping point to ask, okay, what does this card mean? I'm having issues with this card. Let me pull an Oracle card and see if it clarifies it for me. Because a lot of times when you're connected and you're working with spirit, they'll make a card come up that will help you get something psychically. Because I didn't want to work psychically when I read the tarot, because I thought tarot and psychic were two separate things, and they're not. Like, I'm developing my psychic as I'm reading the tarot. And so I kind of pushed that away from me. But with the new tarot readers, I think working on those both levels is good for you. You should develop one as you're developing the other. And so with Oracle cards, you have that jumping point.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I totally understand, being a new person taking your class or taking a couple of classes if it isn't like a long-term class, and then not knowing and kind of being like kind of lost until you finally get your footing. So this is helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, using the Oracle decks, you can also use it as a check and balance. Like I use the Lenormand as a check and balance. The Lenormand straight to the point. And so if you want to confirm that the love's going to come into their life in a couple of months, I would go to Lenormand and look at the love card and see what's around it to clarify, yes, it's going to happen.
So when you practically when you're doing this, so you have a client, you've pulled out cards in your tarot from your tarot deck, you've done the spread or whatever, you've thrown the cards, and you've did that reading, and now you want to clarify with that Oracle or the what was the other deck you said you used? The Lenormand. Okay. Yeah, how do you do that? Do you just leave the cards on from the tarot and then just pull more cards from the other deck, or
Yes.
how do you do that?
Usually I'll leave the cards on the, well, I don't know. It depends on what's going on. If I want to, if I know what's happening, like change is happening here or love is happening here, then I don't need the cards in front of me. I just need to make sure that it's correct that that love is going to happen because I'm second guessing. Like
Right.
if I'm having issues with a certain card or I'm having issues with timing, at least I'll be able to confirm it with the Lenormand deck. Like, oh
Right.
no, yeah, it's in a month or two. That's what I feel because these cards are showing me the exact same thing.
So
A
you just
lot of
pick up
times.
that other deck and you
Mhm.
just, oh, cool. Okay.
Throw them down, look for the card that I need to look for in the Lenormand deck, or if I'm using Oracle, I'll pull 3. I won't
Oh,
go any
okay.
further than 3 usually because then I'm just starting to confuse myself. And the client will know when you're
Right.
confused. The client will know when
Yeah.
you're scared. The client will know when you don't know what you're talking about. And so it's best to stick with small sections or,
Yeah.
not so much wording because you'll fumble. I mean,
Right.
it's happened to me when I'm in the beginning. It's going to happen to the novice as well.
Right. And I found, I mean, when I first started too, if you're doing, I would use witches runes to sort of do
Hmm.
clarification. So if I, pull cards and I'm like a little confused as to what they're trying to tell me, or one of those problem cards pop up and you're like,
Yeah.
fuck, I would just basically tell them, I need a little more clarification. I'm just going to pull a couple
Yes.
of runes. I mean, I'm being honest with them, and that way it makes them feel that I maybe have a little more confidence than I do at that moment. I'm freaking out inside,
Yeah.
but when I just tell them, hey, yeah, I'm going to just grab a few runes or a few more cards or an oracle card or two, because I want to get a little more clarification for you, because it seems a little fuzzy to me at the moment. I mean, I
Yeah.
feel that it builds more confidence than you just sitting there going, I don't know.
I think. Yeah. Or why don't we wait in 3 months? And no, don't. You want them to come back to you, but you want them to come back to you with issues other than what they're already asking or clarification because new things have happened to them since the reading that's happened. I'd
Right.
rather have people come back to me because of that than just to come back to me to ask the same question over again
I agree.
because that will annoy me.
It annoys me too.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And
And we've
as a
all had those
new,
clients, right?
yes, we have, and
Oh,
asking it 17 different ways, and it's like, honey, you ain't fooling nobody, and you ain't fooling me. But when you're new, going to seasoned, you're like, I'm opening myself to whoever comes because I need the practice, but it doesn't help you because it makes you second guess yourself because they'll know what you said in the last reading. And honey, half the time, I don't even know what I said the last reading.
I
So
don't know what I said though.
yeah,
I tell them as soon as they get up from the table, if you come back to me in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, whatever, I'm not going to remember what I told you
yes,
because I don't want to remember.
yeah.
Can you imagine all that
That would be
shit?
too hard. No.
I would be going crazy.
Yeah.
Mm,
And with that, it also helps you with the timing as well. Well, because if they keep coming back in 2 weeks to ask you the same question about love, and you feel now that it's going to be 2 months, and they're like, "Well, you told me a month last time." It's like yes, but and that'll get the novice tarot reader scared to where they'll start throwing things out that it's in their own head. It's not connected to spirit. It's not connected to your psychic. You're just making stuff up because you're like analyzing it completely.
yeah.
And so with this way, it's like, well, you know, using the check and balances, you can at least clarify that, or you can say, well, let me use a different deck, or let me, I did say 1 month, but everything changes as soon as you walk out the door. Your fate changes when you leave that door from this reading. It could happen in sooner time, or it could happen in later time.
Or the
And
decisions that you made because you got the reading from me last month or last
mhm,
week, you made decisions that changed the timing.
mhm. And I also would like to say that from novice to seasoned, you're also reiterating to them as you're doing the readings, if you follow this path, then it'll make it longer. That person won't come into your life if you keep following the same path, or if you make changes, they can come in sooner. So if they're asking about money and you're looking at timing and you say, well, if you keep on the same course, I see that there's going to be a wait, right? But if you make changes, it may come sooner. You know, I always do that for clients because that way they won't want to come back because you already told them what they need to know, you know.
Yeah, I agree. Questions are good, but the same
Oh,
question 10
yeah,
million times isn't going to help
no,
anybody.
it is not. And in the beginning, that's what you'll get because they want to know, they want to hear what they want to hear.
Yeah,
That's all it
exactly.
is. Yeah,
Exactly. And
yeah,
if you're not telling them that that man or that woman isn't coming for them right now because they have personal shit to work through,
yes.
they are not going to want to hear it. They're going to come back next week.
Hmm. And then there's the people that they'll go to many other people, like their habitual clients, or you know, they go to habitual terror, they go to other people to find a different answer or the one that they like, and those are the worst.
And
And it's okay.
I'm sure you've had them come back to you and say, well, the lady that I went to last week over on Main Street said blah, 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 blah. But
Mhm.
you're saying blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Or they'll say, oh yeah, I already know that because the person I went to another person earlier and they told me, and I'm like, well then why didn't you come to me?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'll take your money, but you know, you're not gonna hear anything different.
I know.
So at least with the Oracle decks and with the Lenormand decks, or whichever thing you want to use, integrating that into your tarot reading can also help you to clarify the reading. Because we're all just telling a story. You want to be a great storyteller when you're going from novice to seasoned. When you become seasoned, telling a story is easy. You're going to put it together in your own mind. You're not going to ask clarifying questions to them because the information will already be coming to you. The information will already be in the cards. You'll have dual ways of finding out that information. You'll have your checks and balances, and you'll be able to tell the story a little bit more smoother. Whereas as you're telling it, information's coming in. It's kind of like multitasking. And so if you're not a multitasker, then you're gonna learn eventually how to be a multitasker if you're doing tarot readings.
Now,
Because
do you have suggestions on how newer, novices can learn how to weave the story or tell the narrative? I mean, definitely the clarifying with another tool or cards or runes or whatever they're going to use is helpful. But do you have other ways that an individual can sort of like practice this other than just reading for people, or do you think that's the only way that they can do that?
a lot of it has to deal with journaling.
Oh,
And so I found that with journaling and allowing me to flow when I do readings for myself, or if I want to pull a card and just find out. That's why when I say the energy of the week, it's so broad because you're kind of reading for everything.
mhm.
And so if you write just about a broad subject, and you start telling the story like, oh, I feel that it's going to be this. I feel that it's going to be that. I feel like the energy is going to go this way. Oh, and the Three of Swords is coming up. So that's telling me that I'm going to be, there's some kind of sorrow happening, or there's some kind of thing that I have to work through or get over. And so your storytelling goes that way. Also, you can sit there and pull cards and weave the story together. So if you pull 3 cards because you're bored, you start out with wherever your focal point is, so whichever card it is, or you can go past, present, future, and tell the story that way. And that way you're speaking out loud, you're talking, you're telling about the story. You're not saying because you're in your own space that you can mess up and fumble and do whatever you do, but you're still getting yourself in that mode of telling that story and weaving it together.
Right.
And yeah, and it's okay to go backwards. It's okay to tell something, move forward, and then go back and reiterate the same thing, just so that you're like, I know that this is happening and this is happening, and then you get your new information. So
Right.
you're still telling the story and it's still flowing.
Yeah. Yeah. Journaling. Yeah.
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 And then practicing with other people is always good, practicing with friends. But if you don't have friends, then try a festival. If you're a novice, try a festival, because a lot of times it's hard to approach people that own shops because they want to know who you are, what you've done, where you're going, how you're doing it, how many years you've been in the practice. And if you're a beginner, a lot of people frown on beginners because they want somebody who's going to come in and be able to take control of the readings.
Right.
And I know we've done a show on taking control of the client. And that's the big thing, is you want to take control of that reading and not let them take control of it. Because once they get hold of that reading, you're losing it, and you'll start second guessing your own self, and it won't be as good of a reading as you want it to be.
How do you feel? And I'm only asking this because I've had people approach me and I'm okay with it. New tarot readers, if they find you, on YouTube, on Facebook or whatever, and they ask if they can do a reading for you as practice and get feedback from you. I've had people do that. I've done exchanges. Hey, I'll do a reading for you. Will you do a reading for me? And I need practice. And I'm like, sure. I mean, because I'm always willing to help the novices, right?
Yes.
So how do you feel about that?
I feel that that's good, but you want to start simple. You don't want to go complicated in the spreads. You don't. If you want to tackle the Celtic cross and use that forever and ever and ever, and that's what you're gonna be your forte is, then you're gonna stick with it. And if you're gonna make mistakes, own those mistakes and move forward from there. But if you're not comfortable with the Celtic cross and you don't like the Celtic cross, go past, present, future. Yeah. Do simple 3-card spread. Even 1 card. 1 card is very good, because yesterday I had somebody ask me, can I just pull a card? They didn't ask me a question. They said, I want to make a decision. I want to know if it's going to be the right decision. Doing it without knowing much and just knowing the card, she pulled the World. And the World tells me that things are ending. That's a cycle of ending. And the next one is the beginning, which is the Fool. So you have to also state it to them this way. So as an example, if you're saying that there's no money in your bank account now, or if you're saying that this is going to be something that's going to get you a job, the World was telling me that it's the ending of whatever poverty-strickenness or whatever past actions were happening. Now if you move forward with this, it's a good thing to do. So talking in a broad way, giving an example about a subject in readings, because some people are going to come to you and they're not going to want to give you any information. So if you allow source to take over and allow source to give you those examples, like, oh, I feel like bank account's involved in this. So if your bank account is empty, half the time, or most of the time, 75% of the time, that's exactly what they wanted to know, because you were connected. You were allowing spirit to speak through you. You were allowing sources or goddess, God, whatever you want, whatever you believe in, is taking over and allowing that reading to happen. Because as you go from novice to seasoned, you're going to find that you're basically healing. The tarot readings are healing, because they're seeking advice, and all they're wanting to know is it going to be okay? And we're there to tell them, yes, in a couple of months, yes, tomorrow, yes, maybe, if you work through this stuff. And you're also allowing them to get it all out as well, because a lot of times when we do tarot readings, they want to spill the beans, and we're there to listen and say, I understand, here's what's going to happen, mark a different course or change your way of thinking, and work forward through there. So
right.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Mike has a question.
Sure.
So if you read tarot, regardless of whether you're pro or it's just personal, is it just meanings, like based on tarot reading books, or can it also be symbols on the cards as well?
It's both.
Yeah.
It's both. As you go from novice to season, you're going to find the symbols are going to speak to you, the card meanings are going to speak to you, and then using your psychic ability is also going to speak to you, because all of that's going to give you the clarification to be able to tell that story.
I agree.
Yeah.
And elemental yeah. Sometimes when I try to do a reading for others, it's as if the cards are telling me what I personally need to hear for myself and my own problems instead. How can I prevent my own energy leaking into the reading?
You can't. The only way for us to give good tarot readings and to connect to our clients is through example and through experience. So they're telling you that your way of connecting, yeah, and that's right, because I can feel it. They're telling you that your way of connecting to that person through the reading is through your experiences. So their spirit's telling you, remember that time when that kid pushed you, and da 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 da. It's allowing you to get the information from that card through that experience that happened. So a lot of times you'll get 50 million readings about relationships, because your relationship's on the rocks right now, and that's what you got to focus on. So those people are going to come to you, and you're learning through those tarot readings because you're working not only through yourself, but with them as well. So
Yeah.
you're kind of hearing your own advice that you need, and you're like, oh, okay, I know what I need to do. But you also have to help them as well to work through that.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost like that case of spirit knows what we need to hear, and if we've been deaf to what they've been trying to tell us in other ways, they'll send us clients
Yes.
that will force us to tell the client what we
Uh-huh.
really should have been paying attention to through other means. At least that's what happens to me. So if
Yes.
I'm having dreams or if I'm getting synchronicities and I'm like, yeah, whatever, I don't want to deal with that right now. I'm not thinking about that right now. Yeah, I know. Yeah, no. And then all of a sudden, 3 people have a similar situation. It's spirit saying, yo, CricketSong, you need to pay attention.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's true. And I find that the more we go with what Spirit wants us to do, the better things turn out. So you'll get more experience so that you can be able to handle the readings that happen later on. Because you'll get whatever you're going through, you'll get exactly that in other clients. And it's just having to work through it. It's us also having to work on ourselves. Learning the tarot is about also ourselves. It's a mirror towards what we're going through. And so if you want to be a tarot reader and you want to be a good tarot reader, then like I always say, you got to work through your craft. All of it. Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
So after working with Oracle decks and blending them together, you can do that as well. The other thing is spreads, like what to use and what not to use. Going from novice to season, you don't want to reach for the stars and try to do, oh God, there's so many. There's like 165, that book that said 165 spreads to use. Being ambitious, if you like astrology, do the astrology spread because you already have some inkling about astrology. It'll click on that side with the tarot as well. But if you don't know astrology, good luck using the astrology spread. Because if you're a novice trying to do an astrology spread and you have no knowledge about it, you're just going to screw yourself in the end. Always start simple. Always start with past, present, and future. You can expand past, present, and future by adding 3 cards, 3 cards, 3 cards, if you feel that you can do that. You can try the Celtic cross. You can try the horseshoe spread. Those have always worked for me. You can only use the major arcana in the beginning. Yeah. As a tarot reader, as a novice, major arcana will give you all the information you need because that's what I say. Those are the lessons that we always go through. And then the minor arcana is just the details. They're just giving you the details of the everyday stuff that happens in everyone's lives. But if you just do the major arcana and learn the major arcana very well, the other ones will come fast. The other ones will come faster as you grow as a tarot reader.
I used to do 3 card spread, but instead of past, present, future, because everybody did that, I did body, mind, and spirit.
That's it.
So this is how this is going to affect your body. Or physically, this is how it's going to affect your mind or mentally. And this is how spiritually you're going to be affected by whatever the topic is. Mm-hmm. Because everybody did past, present, and future. And I like to be different,
and then with that also, as you're growing from novice to season, you want to have spreads that your clients are going to use. If you're going to use the Celtic cross and it doesn't give answers to the client that's sitting in front of you, you're wasting your time. They want to know about love, create a love spread that you know. 3, 5. I wouldn't go any more than 5 because a lot of times it's just too much information and you'll never use the other cards. So it's like, if you want a love spread, create a 3-card love spread. Oh, this means a relationship. This means what he thinks. This means what I think. Yeah. Something that'll give you that information so that they can leave saying, oh, that's what I need to know,
Yeah, I was just thinking, you, the other person, and what needs to be addressed in the middle.
Yes.
You're coming at it, what they're coming at it, and what you guys need to work on. Yeah, you can do easy stuff like that.
Yeah. And so if you create a spread that or you find a spread that you like, that's simple and you can go to all the time, and you don't have to memorize all these different meanings of of the positions, then you're doing a better job as a tarot reader for the client.
Yeah.
And so it's all about finding that balance, especially from going from the beginning, novice to season. And I think you're going to hear novice and season from me a little bit more, like maybe 10 more minutes, and then I'll stop saying novice to season because they're like, he's saying that too much. I know, I am right now. And so that's how I feel about the spreads. Don't overcomplicate things. Don't try to be overzealous. You want to be great at your job, and it's like you're not going to sit there and try to be manager when you just started, without having managerial experience. Let's see. You can also use, if you're a healer, you can use the cards in your healing circles. You can use the cards to talk about the energy of the week or the energy that's in the room. You can use the cards and have somebody. You can give readings in the healing circle. You can have some people pick one card and you just let them know, hey, this is what the spirits are saying, and that way you're getting the practice and you're having a better relationship with the cards. So you can use that to help waste time in the healing circle. Like that could be your opener, and that way people aren't expecting anything from you. They're not expecting you to tell them their most darkest secrets or answer their most forbidden questions. With that, it's like an icebreaker. And so it's good if you can use it in that. Because a lot of times you'll find healers will use tarot, but they separate the two. And I think you can integrate both of them together because you're still using it as a healing tool.
I agree.
Let's see. You can also use the cards. What I used to do, I used to go out and try to look for things to relate to the cards. So if I saw something happening, I would say, oh, that reminds me of the Four of Pentacles, or oh, that reminds me of death, or oh, that reminds me of the Tower. So as you go through your day, you should already have, if you've taken a class, you already have the tarot on your mind and you already know some of the cards pretty good, that you can start relating them to your everyday happenings so that you can start memorizing them better. Because if you know what they are and you can attach it to an experience, then you'll be able to get that more information psychically through the prompting of the cards.
Yeah, and it'll help you weave that story too.
Yep. You can also attach songs to cards.
Oh yeah.
Like Break It Down Again reminds me of The Tower by Tears for Fears, because it talks about the breakdown of things. It talks about starting over, and that's exactly what the Tower card is about. It's about the break, and it's also about building back up. So I attach songs to certain cards, mostly major arcana, because I need to understand what they're trying to tell the client or what they're trying to tell me. And if I can relate it to a song, you'll get it stuck in that client's head as well. So they'll be like, oh, I'm going through that change, or oh, this song is, helping me get through it or whatever, because it's telling me that something positive is going to happen at the end. That's how I feel about that. So by putting it to your everyday stuff, it'll help you to learn the cards faster and to memorize them.
I like that.
Yeah. Let's see here. Do I have any questions? No?
Yep. Someone just asked one.
Yeah.
Nicole asks, I've been learning to read tarot for a couple of years. Do you have any tarot tips that come to mind that you could give me?
She's been learning for a couple of years.
Yeah, that's what she said.
What we're talking about are the tips that carry your cards with you all the time would be a good tip. Shuffle the cards when you're bored. Pull cards when there's no one around and just try to talk about them. Cleanse your cards. Find a way to cleanse them. Also figure out if you want to allow the client to touch the cards or not touch the cards. And that was a big question that a lot of people asked me too, is like, do you allow people to touch your cards? In the beginning, I didn't allow people to shuffle. I would just have them tap the cards to put energy into them, and then I would shuffle. But eventually I just got over. I'm like, I can cleanse them. I don't need, they shuffle them any way you want. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make you do something so that way I'm not sitting here shuffling doing all the work.
Yeah. I always had my client shuffle the cards. Like, you shuffle them. And for me, it also, in my mind, gave control over the actual cards to them.
Yes.
Because I feel like sometimes, especially if they're skeptical, they think that I've put them in a certain order so that they're going to come up in a certain order.
Yeah.
But if I let them shuffle them and I tell them, I don't care how you shuffle them, please cut them. I have them cut them. Because then they can't accuse me of arranging them in a certain way. That's why I always did that.
Yep. And I also let them, I tell like, oh, I'm not a good shuffler. Well, then throw them up in the air and put them all back together. I don't care. Exactly. It doesn't matter to me. You can you can squish them around, do whatever you want to them. I used to be afraid that my cards would get broken in, and I'm like, I love that they get broken in. I can buy another deck, or I buy 3 of that deck that I love, and then they can use one and waste it all to hell. I don't care anymore. But it allows them to do something while they're formulating that question as well. Mm-hmm. And you can talk to them while they're shuffling, and you can also ask them, do you have questions? And if they say, well, I do have a question, and then they ask it also allows you time to say, oh, well, how about if we rephrase the question this way? Yeah. Because that'll help me to get more answers that way than just asking about Tom. What about Tom? I don't know. What about Tom? What do you want to know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Isn't it funny how when we first start, though, there's this fear that they're going to do something bad to our cards?
Yes. I always feared they're going to bend them or like break them. And it's like, oh, that's never happened to me. And also it allows, it allows the chance for pop-outs to happen. So when you get the pop-out cards, you're like, fuck yeah, free information. Like, it's like, that's a card I don't have to worry about, because I can talk about it and integrate it into everything else. Yeah. That's how I feel about that. And sometimes it'll be like 3 cards and I'm like, yes, there's your reading. You don't have to worry about, having them cut or whatever. Right. And so you also want to keep the limitations on your read. So if you're a beginner, I would only do a 3 card and that's it. Like, you don't want to say, I'm going to do 15 minutes for you, because then you have to worry about filling up the space. If you can only do 3 cards, it's like 3 minutes, 5-minute reading. So I would charge by so let's talk about charging. I would charge by the spread. I wouldn't charge by the minutes. If you're a beginner, I would do spread, then not minutes, because you haven't gotten the experience under your belt to hold a 15-minute conversation. Unless you're a good storyteller. Or you can talk, and just go, then yeah, charge by the minute. But I find that with beginners, I would charge by the spread. That makes sense. Yeah. Let's see. How to tell if you're novice, intermediate, or I say journeyman, and seasoned. So novice is never done a reading in your life. You just bought the card from Barnes & Noble or Amazon, and they're not even opened. That's a novice. Like, you are new. You just don't even know what the cards mean. You don't know nothing. You haven't even shuffled them. You're a novice. I think once you do a couple of readings, you're kind of out of the novice section. And then journeyman is when you know the cards already. Like, you don't have to look them up. You don't have to think about it's a 2 of swords. What does that mean again? You're like, oh, that's a 2 of swords. Okay, I know that. Agreement. That's, and you already have your key phrase or keyword associated with those cards. And that's what I always tell people, is that you want to have keywords with your cards. Mm-hmm. So that way you're not stuck trying to decide what that card is telling you. You know that it means one thing, and you can weave the story with the other 2 cards that are sitting there. You can weave what it's going to say by that one keyword. I agree. Especially if your psychic abilities aren't working at the time, or if you feel closed off, or you're not getting information psychically, you at least have those keywords to get you to where you need to go. I agree. And you know what? That's what, when you were talking about having oracle cards, I feel like that's when oracle cards can definitely help you too. Yeah. If you have a keyword, but it's not making sense with the other 2 cards, then you pull your oracle card, and it's like, oh, that's exactly what I was, Yeah. And then with oracle cards, you can eliminate cards from the oracle deck, because I used to buy Doreen Virtue's decks, and I hated like marriage and children. I don't care about that shit. Like, I rarely get, oh, you're like, in all honesty, when I learned, like, it says like the pages can mean children. The pages can mean this, but I have rarely ever gotten a reading to where I had to deal with the kid. Never, never, never. Unless they ask. Then I was like, okay, I'm dealing with the kids. So if the page card comes up, I know it's going to have to deal with their energy. It's going to have to deal with where they're at. I know what part of the, but have you ever like, when you see a page, do you think of a child?
First thing I do. But if it's not children, then it's like sometimes when I do readings and the page comes up, it's someone who acts as a child, or I've even had instances where the person is like mentally or emotionally delayed.
Huh.
So they may be 50, but the page comes up to represent them or something dealing with them because they are childlike.
Huh. I've never heard anyone
But
say,
my thing is children,
yes,
pregnancies
see?
and children and things like that. That's my thing. You know how some of us have a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's children in pregnancies. You want to know if you're pregnant?
That's what you said last time.
That's
Yes.
yeah. That's I can tell you. Yeah, it's my thing. So
Yeah.
pages are do that
They do
for me.
resemble children then.
Yeah, for
With
me.
me,
But I can definitely
yeah.
see it doesn't do that for everybody.
Yeah, never for me. With me, it's always how information is going to be received. So, like the Page of Cups would be like a surprise. The Page of Wands would be through word of mouth, and then I think the Page of Coins would be paper, mail, things like that. So that's how I view the pages as information being received, and I've never like no, I've never dealt with a kid. Like people that come to me don't ask about their children, and if they do, they ask like specifically, "Do you see anything for my son?" And I'm like, "Okay." So then I'll do it.
I think that definitely goes with the idea that we resonate with different readers,
Mm-hmm.
that, if and once we have a reader that we really like, we stick with that reader. I mean,
Yes, yeah, because we know how to read their energy. We know what's happening and stuff like that.
mm.
Yeah, that's crazy. So they always come to you when they're pregnant.
Or if they want to be pregnant or
Yeah, and with me pregnancy is the Empress. I think that's the only thing. Empress, if the Empress and the Sun come up, that's pregnant for me. So if they're asking, am I going to get pregnant, and I see the Empress and the Sun in the reading, yeah, you're going to get pregnant. Most of the time when I feel pregnancies, it's psychically. So I'll be like, oh, I feel like, a child's going to be born soon. It's never through the cards. That's crazy. Do
yeah,
you get it
am I
psychically
pregnant?
or through the cards?
Well, it's am I pregnant? And I flip over 3 cards. Oh, yep, look at a page. Yep.
Oh, see, so you use a page as a kind
Yep.
of like, okay, yes, it's going to happen.
Yeah,
That's
or if
crazy.
I'm doing a bigger spread, and there's, if I'm like, say I'm reading, just let's say I'm reading for you, and a card comes up that identifies you to me, and then a page comes up alongside it, because I do a pyramid. So if it's overlaying you on, depending on if it's on the right or the left, oh yeah, look at you're pregnant, or you're going to be pregnant, but it may not be a term. Sometimes that comes up, things like that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. That's pretty cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a gift you got. And then how do you do timing?
It depends. It depends. Sometimes, depending on the deck I'm using, because I noticed that I think it's the Green Witch Tarot. It has like Yule and Ostara and cards like that. So
Mhm.
that tells me the season that something would happen. So, if right now we're in the summer and they want to know when would something happen, that tends to give me, oh, by Yule, the Yule card will come up. If I want really specific, then I'll do like within a week, and I'll pull cards and I'll say, oh, nope, okay, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It depends on how far ahead we're looking.
Yeah,
It
yeah, that's what
depends.
I do. I'll do months, and then I rarely have like, psychically I'll get days or weeks. But if I want years or months, I go to cards and I'll pull to see when that change is going to take place. And then I'll be like, oh, it's going to happen in 3 months, or, oh, it's going to happen, in 4. I don't go past 6 because things can
I don't
always
go past
change.
6. Unless
It's not
it's like
worth it.
that seasonal thing, like
Yeah.
looks like if you do what you need to do before, next Litha, if it's the Green Witch Tarot, then, within a year you need to work on these things.
Yeah.
But generally it's 6 months because, like you said, things can happen in the future beyond that.
Yeah. And then, yeah, timing's very difficult sometimes.
Yeah.
So I just stick strictly to a month spread. I want to confine it so that it's not all willy-nilly. And that's a good tip for, I'd say, journeymen, journey tarot readers, that would be good for them to start doing, is
Do you have clients that come to you for like my year? I want to have like a review of what's coming for me this year, like in the beginning of the year, or every year they come and they go, hey, can you kind of just give me a preview of what might,
No, no. And I see people that do that. That's okay.
I have a couple of clients that do that. I mean, they come throughout the year as well, but I have a couple of clients in particular every year at a certain time. They say, hey, I'm here for my what's to come this year, knowing that things will change. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's after 6 months, I'm thinking, well, probably not, but
yeah, but if they like it, that's their comfort way. And that, that helps if they come to you consistently, like if you're getting people to read and things like that, it helps you, it's practice.
Yeah.
And it also helps you define what your standards are as far as readings, because you may not like doing it, and you're like, oh, I don't do yours anymore because I can't, or whatever. When you're doing, you want to try at least once, and if it fails, then okay, I'm not gonna be able to do that anymore.
Right. Per Bugaloo in the chat says, do you guys ever use pip decks? I got my first one and I got my first one and not sure I can manage not having images. Sorry.
Oh, I used to read with the, it was called the Spanish tarot deck, but I think it was based off the Marseilles deck, where they don't have pictures on the thing, and it helped me to memorize the cards. That was it, and I stopped using them. Yeah, and it's more of a tool for you to say, oh, the Two of Swords means this, or da 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 da, and that's all I used it for. And I even wrote on my tarot cards, like I would write the keyword that I had for it when I first started out, and that helped me to get used to it. But I stopped using that deck. I mean, I still have it, but I like pictures, so.
Yeah, the first deck I had was the Egyptian tarot, and the only cards that had images was the Major Arcana, and the pips only had like 4 swords, 3 pentacles. I mean, that's all that was on that, and the only way I could read is to memorize. And once I found the Rider-Waite, I was like, fuck that.
I know that's what I said too.
Are you kidding? And
that's what I
tell you, readings went so much better.
Yes,
I had more information came than just 4 swords.
Yes. Now, if you're an intuitive tarot reader, and that's all you want to work with is intuitive, use it. Use it, because sometimes when you have pictures in front of you, your mind can get in the way. So your thinking mind can get in the way with the pictures, and you'll start second guessing yourself. Oh, I see a child. Is there something wrong with a child? Whereas if you didn't have that picture on that card, you would just be like, oh, I see psychically this, and you'll have more of a hit than if you had a picture to confuse you. So intuitive readers can start with that because they're using more of their psychic abilities in the other cards.
Yeah, and you know what I was just thinking is, when I was trying to read with those cards, I looked up numerology, and I was remembering, okay, 2s generally symbolize this, and 3s symbolize this, and 4, and then I put swords pentacles, cups, and wands, and I had associations for that. So if a 2 of swords came up, it would be, oh, 2 and swords mean this, the associations that I had. But man, it was so
It was hard.
so hard.
It was hard because I used to sit there and be like, oh, 2 of swords. Oh, what did that mean again? And I mean, the client would just sit there and stare at you, and I'm like thinking, oh, what is that card? Oh, I'll come back to it. I'll come back to that. And I would just disregard that card and move on. And so, I mean, you can if you want, but you're just putting yourself in for more work.
Unless you're good at that. I mean,
Yeah.
like you said, I mean,
if you're intuitive, I would say use it. Use it 100%. Let's see here. Oh, so if you're novice, do you have any more questions?
Nope, that was it.
Okay. If you're novice, trying to get to seasoned, and you're feeling like you don't know what you're doing, you want answers, you want to put out to the universe for like-minded people. I didn't do that. I didn't understand the whole, law of attraction, whatever. I didn't understand that if you set it out there, that spirit will bring you exactly who you need. I thought I had to be on my own. Back in those days when I learned the tarot, there were no groups. Meetup did not start yet. The person who gave me my first tarot deck was a witch, and she left. She was a traveler. She was a gypsy. She left. And I had nobody to do it with. Even psychically, you didn't have a lot of places to go to, and the local crystal shop only touched the surface of things. So I would go to these classes and I'd be like, oh, I already know this. I'm wasting precious time. And so I had to do a lot of my own reading. I had to do a lot of practicing with people. I had to make my own mistakes. I had to F things up. I crossed boundaries as far as, telling things about other people that I knew was not right. I shouldn't have done that. And so I'm glad that you guys have these resources as far as YouTube, because we can talk about those subjects. Like, I wouldn't talk about death. I wouldn't talk about, people cheating on other people unless they've asked, am I being cheated on? And even then it's like, well, what do you think? Do you think you're being cheated on? Because most of the time, you're being cheated on. And it's like, you want to have some sort of ethics when you're doing that. Like, you don't want to spill people's beans all over the place, especially if it's in a festival. You don't want to go deep. You really don't want to go deep if you're at a festival. You want to just do the reading and try to stay along the surface, because you really can't go into an in-depth reading when you have, especially, I did it at Pride, especially if you have people half naked and all this stuff. So, you want to keep it lighthearted. And being a beginner, you can actually say, I don't see anything. Sorry, I don't have an answer to that question. Or, I'm not getting anything. That was my go-to. I'm sorry, but the spirits aren't telling me anything. Maybe in a couple of months you can come back and ask the question and I'll have information then. When the spirits are telling me everything I need to know, I still didn't want to say that information to them because it wasn't the right time for that. And you also want to be honest with the people that you're reading and say, I really can't read you right now because the timing wise where you're at is not going to benefit you. Like, if they're going through a lot of change and you can feel they're going through a lot of change and you can't pinpoint the answers that they want, you're wasting their time by trying to fumble something together and give them whatever. Just be honest with them. I can't read you today. I'm sorry. Try me in a week, or spirit will let me know when the next reading should take place. Like, in a month, you'll be calmer and we can get to the real nitty gritty of things.
Yeah, I would suggest, only from my own experience, like you, kind of just swam in there by myself.
Yeah.
Make sure you are putting yourself in situations that are compatible to where you're at in reading. And why I say that is, one of the first few readings at the time that I started, tarot parties were the hit. And I would have people hire me to do a tarot party, meaning that like a Tupperware party or a Mary Kay party, they'd hire me, they'd serve food and drinks to their friends, put me in a room, and then people would pay me or the host would pay me, and people would come and get a reading and then leave the room. And there was this one situation, I was unaware of how the group of people knew each other. And they didn't have a separate room for me. They had me sit at the kitchen table.
No.
And they all sat in the room as I did each of their readings. And I didn't know how they were all connected. Only later did I find out that they all worked together in a hair salon.
Oh, no.
One of them was their boss, and the other ones were all stylists. Some were with their boyfriends. Some brought their boyfriends. And let me tell you, that was a whole lot of drama because of what came up in the readings.
Yes.
So I was uncomfortable. Started some major fights between some of them. So I mean, if I would have known what I was getting into when I walked in there, I probably would not have taken that party.
Yeah.
Because I was uncomfortable because they put me in a really, and I was new. So, you know, they're giggling, they're looking at each other as I'm reading the person sitting at the table in front of me, not knowing that he's the boyfriend of this one and he's having sex with this one and they're friends because they work in the same salon. I don't know this.
I know.
So knowing the situation that you're getting into, depending on your level of experience, is helpful.
Yes. And that's where it goes back to keeping it lighthearted as well, especially at parties. And if they're drinking, oh, forget it. They ain't going to remember the crap that you fucking told them. Forget it. So keep it lighthearted. If they ask you a question, you gotta go with that meter of, am I going to say this or am I not going to say this? And you can say, I don't get anything. I'm sorry. I don't really see it here in the cards. Maybe if you come for a private reading, I can address it then.
Or even say this is the subject you're asking for is a little too deep for this this scenario with this environment. If you want a private reading,
call me up, and you can pay the normal fee instead of just tipping. Yeah, and that's you. You don't have to say yes as a novice to everything. I don't care how much practice you're going to get. Know your limitation. Put a cap on it. Like, you don't want to just go somewhere and they're like, I have 200 people and it's just a party and you're going to read and just go for 4 hours. No.
Take your breaks.
Yes, take breaks, especially when you do expos or if you do carnivals or pride or whatever you do. Take breaks. Eat. Drink water because you're talking so much. Okay? One time I did readings. I didn't have any water. I had water, but I was just going. I had white on my mouth for 2 readings, and they were sending people up to give me water. I'm like, why are they giving me water? Because you don't look like you're cotton mouth. That's why. So live and learn on that one. Like, come on.
I lost my voice multiple times.
Oh my gosh, no.
By the back in Massachusetts, my son's high school had an after prom party. So after prom, everybody went back to the school in the auditorium, and they had food and they had all kinds of things, and they had readers. For 2 years or 3 years, I was one of the readers, and it was nonstop kids in line for us. And it was me and 2 other readers. And by the end of the night, or, you know, by the end of the morning, because it went into like 5 a.m. I don't even remember, but I had no voice. No voice. Yeah.
No, I could not. You live and learn. That's what I say, you know. And the other thing is, watch out for being receiving, what is it called? Psychic poison. Like, if you don't know how to control the clearing of energy or transmutation of energy in the reading, and the client comes in and dumps their bullshit on you, and you take it home with you, you can get psychically sick. And I did that like 3 times. I just read, absorbed everything, didn't do anything, went and had fun, and got sick the next day, threw up, everything. So you kind of want to be able to, you know, okay, I need to take time to rest, or I need to clear myself, or chant or meditate or take a shower, because water cleanses you. After Reiki, I take showers because it just cleanses. It's I'm not holding on to any of that energy.
I didn't get psychic poisoning.
Uh-huh.
I brought someone home with me.
Oh, like a spirit?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. See, that'll happen too. Yeah.
From a party, from a different party, from a tarot party. They came home with me because by the end of the night, I was so tired. I was just like, I'm going to bed. They drove in the car with me, freaked me the fuck out. I tell you, freaked me the fuck out. Which actually we have a question about being drained.
Okay.
So Elemental Millennial says, why do I feel so drained after doing tarot or any witchcraft in general? It makes me sometimes not want to do a reading for a really long time because I feel so drained afterwards.
It could be the person you're reading. They could be energy vampires or energy suckers. And I found that people will do that. They'll absorb so much of that reading, or how deep you're going in that reading. So if you're bringing up their junk and they're working through it and you're telling them exactly, or you're going 20 minutes strong or half an hour minute strong with just one person, you're going to waste so much of your energy doing that, especially if you weren't prepared for it and if you're not connected. So if you're connected spiritually to source, if you're connected spiritually to goddess, if you're connected to whatever you believe in and you're receiving information, you're not using your own to get it. You're not using your own energy to do the reading. It's just happening naturally, and you're transmuting whatever they have, and you're not letting them take over the energy. That's what I think. Yeah.
And I think that, the other person that you're reading for, I mean, could be just feeding off of you too. I mean, if we want to talk about, the psychic vampire kind of scenario where they're just feeding off you. So yeah, if you don't know how to ground yourself, or like Erin said, know how to transmute whatever energy is going on. Yeah. We're almost out of time.
I know.
Nicole wants to know, do you have any tips on remembering the 4 types of cards? Like the sword, what does that represent? The wands, what does that represent?
Wands, I always go with business or school. Swords, I always go with like emotions. Swords can also resemble like spiritual connections to people, relationships connections to people. It can also resemble power, because it's swords, especially the Ace of Swords. It's like force going through things. The cups are always love and psychic, mystical things, spiritual. And then the coins are always material, body, earth, things like that. It's so that's how I look at it. And then you have the 4 elements, like earth.
Yeah, that's how I look at it. I look at each of the sword, the wands, the cups, the pentacles as elementals, and I associate it with my witchcraft. So whatever it represents there, that's how I do it. But,
yeah.
Oh my God. What if it's got a personal reading? I don't know, but we're almost out of time. What do you got do you have more to?
The only thing I'd like to say is start your own tarot meetup. If there's nobody that now you have Meetup, start your own and just work your own. You always want to have a topic. When you do a tarot meetup, have a topic. That's what I think. You can do lecture in the beginning, or you can just talk about problem cards, whatever. Like tomorrow I'm talking about problem cards. And then you practice readings, and that'll give you your exchange things. You'll have seasoned and novice working together, and it's about community. So
yeah, meetups are great. Yeah. Yeah, I wish I would have. That's one thing I feel like I missed at the very beginning. I mean, I did a lot of practice. Like I had friends and family who would let me read them for free and then give me feedback on the reading. Like, does this make sense to you? Does it feel like it is clicking with you? And they would give me feedback, no problem, because it was friends and family. But yeah, I never.
And you also get to, and you also get to see other people read. And that's where you can be like, I like that. Or, ooh, I like how she resembles this card with this. Or I like her storytelling. I like the way she words this. you can also get your vocabulary from other seasoned tarot readers as well. And you build your own, your own vocabulary or your own storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really helpful. I wish I would have had that.
Me too. All we had was those courses of, oh my God, courses of witchcraft or tarot reading, and you had to write in and pay them $25 to get a lesson that was generic as hell. And you would do the homework in the back and mail it in. They'd be like, it was 100%. Oh my God.
Like they even read it.
Yes, they didn't. Okay?
I know. Like they even read it.
They don't give my money. Give my $25. Oh, shoot.
Oh, so real quick, the elemental millennial, she said, what if I feel drained from doing a reading for myself and not a client? So her question was, she feels so drained after she does a tarot reading for herself or himself. I think it's herself. For herself. What about that?
My question to her, or this, I would do it this way. It depends on where you are at on your spiritual journey. So if you're doing, let's say you're doing readings and you're asking the same question over, that could cause you to feel drained because the spirits are telling you to knock it off. You already got your answer. So that could be something that could be happening with that person. The other thing is, what are you doing? How far are you on your spiritual path? So if you're a witch, what are you doing? It could be something different. Like if you're asking about a magical thing and it's kind of on the shadow side, you may feel drained that way because it might not be the good time, or you're not listening to it, or you are doing the spell, and there's other factors that go into it. I never felt drained doing it for myself personally. Yeah.
I guess I would check in with, are you grounding and centering before you're doing any sort of reading for yourself? I mean, just like if you're doing your witchcraft, ground and center first. Because if you have other shit going on in your life and you're emotionally and energetically tied to that, and then you're trying to just do a reading and connect to spirit, or you may not have the energy to work that. Especially if I think she said it happens with her witchcraft too. So if you're already caught up in other shit or other people's shit in the mundane life, and you're trying to do this magical working or communing with spirit, you might just not have the energy to do that because you're so involved over here.
Yes.
Okay. But that's the end. Yeah. We're at the end. Thank you, Aaron.
No, thank you. It's always fun.
So this is the last episode for the season. So the plan is we will return in October. Not sure the name of the show, not sure the format of the show. We're not sure how what we're doing, how we're doing, but the plan is we will return in October. So in the meantime, I have a wonderful backlog of these episodes, of other highlights from other live streams I've done, and tons of videos. Be sure to check out Aaron's channel, his blog, his Facebook, and all the other fun places you can find him in the meantime. And yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. I have to ignore questions because it's 9:34 now. I'm already 5 minutes late. But thank you all for joining us. Thank you, everyone. See you in October.
Bye.
Love you all. Bye. Blessed be.